God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Be seated. Happy birthday, St. Phillips.
Woohoo!
I've been thinking for a long time about what one preaches on the 250th anniversary. And I keep asking myself, what is this all about? What is it all about that we've been in existence as a congregation, not so strongly and very strongly, over 250 years? And not only that, we couple that today with the celebration of Pentecost, when God sent the Holy Spirit on these ignorant Galileans and gave them the wisdom to speak sense in many languages. What's that all about? And not only that, but today we kick off a $2.5 million capital campaign. What's that all about? And so when I'm confused about what things are all about, I do research. And I look to that very important place that preachers look to discover what things are about. And that place is? Bumper stickers. Because bumper stickers are, for my generation, what Twitter is for that younger generation. Pithy, important statements. I saw one the other day that was brilliant. It was on a truck that was being driven by a carpenter. And it said, "Sawdust is man glitter." That's right. But the one that came immediately to mind as I asked what it's all about is a bumper sticker that said, I saw it a long time ago, "What if the hokey pokey is what it's all about?" So then I thought, the hokey pokey is what it's all about. Think about it. Okay, what happened? When did they do the hokey pokey? When there's a big celebration gathering, usually weddings, and some idiot runs around pulling people up to go stand in the middle of the floor to do this dance that no one wants to do. Right? And then they get a group of people in there, and the people that are first in there are people who feel very self-conscious because the other people have had the wisdom not to get in the center of the room. And the first thing they do is what? Put your right foot in. Okay, now, if you're like me, I'm so right-sided that when I was a swimmer, I had to do special exercise so I didn't keep swimming in circles. And so you put your right foot in, and then you put your right foot out, and then you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. Now, that leaves me on my left side, and I'm going to fall over. It feels uncomfortable. And then you put your left side in, and then you put your left side out. And then what? You put your whole self in. And I want to tell you that that is what all three of the events that we celebrate today are about. They are about putting your whole self in. Let's start with the disciples. They were just like you and me. They were pretty much unimpressed with what was going on, but they went and followed Jesus because he did some really cool stuff. And they listened to what he said, but mostly forgot about it. And he spent most of his time correcting them because they didn't get it. And then he dies, and he rises again, and they see him, and what do? They went home. Peter went fishing. They didn't get it. But what they didn't understand was that God requires of them to put their whole self in. To put everything they have on the line. And as it turns out, after that day of Pentecost, every one of the disciples, save one, was murdered for their faith. Killed. Crucified, eaten by bears, lions, run through with swords, burned in oil, all sorts of things. Flayed. That's putting your whole self in. And they're the model that we are given. And we are given the power to be able to do that, not because we can of our own will, not because we know how, but because the Holy Spirit comes to be with us and to guide us. And if you don't believe that's true, for those of you who spent any time at all on this weekend thinking about the history of St. Philip's, what you hear is an incredible story of people for 250 years who have been putting their whole selves in. We heard the story last night of a military guy who made the Chapel of the Cross work and put money, his own money, in there so it could work. We heard the story last night of how the congregation fell into disrepair, and that sometimes there were not more than 10 or 11 people who were part of the congregation, but they put their whole selves in. And we heard how what happened is that as this community began to grow, and as this county has begun to explode, that we get church services with a number of people here. Because somebody else before you put their whole self in. The people who were not as wealthy as you built this church because they put their whole self in. The people who come here to worship week by week, to honor God for what God has done, to give thanks for the ministry of Jesus Christ, and the presence of the Spirit in our lives. Those people put their whole self in. And now comes that time when we're going to be asked again to put our whole selves in. And you will not be able to do that. Please don't let me run too much of a guilt trip on you. Just a little. You will not be able to do that of your own will. Unfortunately, you've been taught by the world too many bad habits. Like financial responsibility, like giving all your money to your kids. You will be able to do that if you allow the Spirit of God to dwell with you and in you. You will be allowed to pray, as St. Paul says, because we can't pray by ourselves. We need the Spirit that is in us to teach us to pray. We will, as Jesus said, when he's leaving his disciples, I will send somebody to walk with you. And when you put your whole self in, you know you are not alone. That Spirit is with you, guiding you, helping you to do remarkable and miraculous things. The city of Southport is lucky that St. Philip's has existed here. That's why they passed a resolution thanking us and honoring us for our 250th year. We'll hear later from our mayor about that very subject. But we, not the only ones in the city, there are plenty of people in plenty of congregations doing plenty of good work. But the good work that has been done here is because people have put their whole selves in. So the question for us today is, and the other thing, I forgot to say, the other thing about the hokey pokey is in the end everybody's up doing it. You become a model to others. Your faith is contagious. And after you don't fall down because you're holding on to somebody else when your right leg is in, or if you're left-sided, if your left leg is in. And when you jump in together, what happens to that circle? It gets closer. It gets tighter. I've watched for the last 18 months as this congregation has gotten tighter. But we still got a lot more tightening to do. Please, put your whole self in. Amen.
Amen.